Many of you asked me in the past weeks what I think about the Swiftblocker, which I just recently got for my soil blocking season, in comparison to the original or traditional handheld blocker. So today in this video, I will walk you through why I love soil blocking so much, what are the comparison points between those two kinds of blockers, and what I'm going to use in the future. I'm Steffi, I'm a home gardener here in Elver, Massachusetts, in Zone 6, and I love to play with new toys and love to share my experience here with you. So welcome to my channel. Let me walk you through the benefits of soil blocking and why I love it so much and do these days literally like 97% of my seed starting in soil blocks. The obvious one, number one, is you use a lot less plastic, right? You don't have any plastic pots. You've also not any plastic pots to clean or store afterwards, which is a big benefit in my books as well. As you know, I like to keep it simple, or you could call it lazy, but I prefer simple. With the soil blocking method, you also create a really, really strong root system because the roots get air prune when they start to hit the soil block, basically bounce back when they find air, going back into the block and branch off again, which creates a really, really solid root system structure, which is superior to any kind of plastic pot, if you ask me. The other obvious reasons are that it's also really, really easy to transplant later because you don't have to fiddle them out of the pots. You literally just take the blocks. When its time comes, it usually takes a little bit of like teasing them out from the strong root system, but it's very, very easy to transplant them out. What is also with them is they are a lot more space efficient because typically you grow them on a smaller snapshot, because with a soil block system you have typically faster germination times. Not exactly sure why that is. I can only confirm that it is. But so you condense the time of the seedling need to grow indoors. Pretty much all of my seeds, except for tomatoes and peppers, grow in a one size soil block and stay in there until it's time to go out for them. The only exception is, as I mentioned, like the tomatoes, I like to pot up to get a slightly bigger plants. Same for the peppers, but everything else is really in those soil blocks, and very happy for that after. So let's talk a little bit about the traditional blockers. So you probably have seen those blockers. Here they come, typically most known in 3 sizes. I know there are a few more, but I would argue those 3 sizes are the most common ones. This is a 2-inch blocker, which also has dibbles in here to basically be the pot up from the mini blocker. Then the medium blocker, this is in a 1.5-inch soil blocker, and then the mini ones, which do like 20 soil blocks in like a 3/4-inch block size. So those are obviously to get a full tray, like a 10-20 tray full with soil blocks with any of these handheld options, takes a while, right? It takes practice, and depending on how many you want to do, it also gets really, really tiring on your hand over time. So to avoid that strain on the hand, that was definitely one of the arguments which made me consider the Swiftblocker. The Swiftblocker has an interesting setup. Yes, I'm accidentally coordinating with it with my nails again. But the Swiftblocker has an interesting setup. So it's basically 2 pieces. It is the top part, and it is a bottom piece, which is basically just the grid which will form the soil blocks in the end, right? And then with the top part, you compress the blocks and press them outside. I hope you can't hear my neighbors. They're very loud in the background. It also happened to be St. Patrick's Day today while I'm filming it, so I guess they're having a party. Anyway, so the top part is really just to compress the blocks and to then wiggle them out and have a full tray of soil blocks for a 10-20 tray. So what are the advantages and disadvantages, right? So we talked already a little bit about, for the stand-up blockers, it takes just a long time to fill a full tray if you need a full tray. If you just need one full tray in the season, it's probably still better for you to use the handheld ones, because it just won't be worth the investment of the Swiftblocker, because I would argue that is the only downside of the Swiftblocker, its price tag. But it all comes down to how much you value your time. And I value my time highly, I gotta say, especially these days. So anything what makes my job easier is always welcome. And I also would think about what are the soil blocks, or what is the size of soil blocks you use the most. I use the most the middle tray, or the middle size one, so the 1.5 inch soil blocks, mostly for everything. And that is where they live in. That's like most of my flowers, honestly, like my snapdragons, my celosia, zinnias, status, which we all sell today too. Yeah, most of my things. I also start peppers and tomatoes in that size of block, although they get like potted up in slightly larger pots along the way. Nevertheless, that is where I would argue I use most of my soil blocks. I still use here and there the mini ones, number one, because it's just so space efficient. But like every time when I use, like, Lysianthus seeds are a great example where I still use the mini blocker, and hence I also still use that one eventually to block them up. I still hope that Swiftblocker comes up with they have a larger size one, but not yet the dibbles for blocking up the mini ones yet, but they're supposed to be in the works, and then I'll get the big one with those dibbles too. But like for anything what you know needs a long time, or starts off really small, or has a notoriously bad germination rate, that is where I still prefer the mini blocks, just because they are so resource friendly, right? You don't need a lot of soil to get them going, and you can see which ones germinate and then take the ones which germinate well forward. So for that reason, I still have a hybrid approach, but for most of my cases, I use the Swiftblocker these days to really get my seed starting going. How about we do that now? I'll show you how that works. So I'm just pre-moistening the soil mix. Yes, this is a fish turner, and it works great to scrape and mix it. You don't always need special tools. Sometimes it's something simple. I think I got it at Target. The important thing with soil blocking, no matter what you do, is to have the right mix. You can find my recipe below, or I can also link my soil blocking video from my previous year, where I went through step by step of the mix and everything here in the video, so you can watch that. But it is really important to have the right mix, and then even more important to have the right moisture level, because otherwise the soil blocks just don't work. What is a good moisture level? Swiftblocker says like is mashed potato type of consistency. For me, it's like when I take some and like squeeze it out and water comes out. This is a good ratio for the soil mix. Typically it's like 3 parts soil mix, 1 part water. I use here for my main base in the soil mix PittMoss, which absorbs water very well. So for me here with the PittMoss as a main ingredient, I just use like 2.5 cups of water to not like overly wet the mix, but then you just mix it through well and let it hydrate a little bit. I let that sit here for a couple of minutes, and then we come back and make some actual soil blocks so you can see how the Swiftblocker works. Just got myself quickly some gloves because I have a fresh manicure and don't want to ruin it. So what do I use typically as a tray when I do my soil blocks? I find that I have like 2 trays. I have like one is like a microgreen tray. You can see through that one, and then a solid tray underneath. This makes watering so much easier. That it also makes like checking the roots a lot easier alongside the way, if you're curious like I am, to see how the root development is going. But it's mainly as a, let's just say, safety system for watering, to just be able to see that water gets distributed everywhere around the soil blocks evenly. But then also, in case you are concerned that you accidentally watered too much, can take that one off, discard the water, and be back in the game. So that's just safety precaution, because I have a lot of people watering my soil blocks when I'm gone on business travel. So a little bit of an safety net never hurts. So what we do is to put the soil blocker in here. What is also interesting to know is soil blocker is quite heavy. It's not heavy or difficult to get it out. Like, I just saw a reel from the makers of the Swiftblocker, and they said it should never be more difficult than squeezing a lemon to get the blocks out. But it's a little bit of an opposite logic, where this one you basically press down and then let go. For this one you also kind of press, but you kind of like press and lift. So it's a little bit of a different motion, and we'll see if I get it right the first time around. For the first try, I always need to think it through again because it's a little bit different, but it is not difficult at all. And even with figuring it out again, it's still so much faster than anything what you can do with handheld ones. So let's get going here. All right. So I choose to have the dibbles put in. They come without it, but with a package of dibbles, so you can choose if you want to put them in or not. So I prefer to have them in to just make the seed starting or putting the seed into the block a lot easier. So, but it's completely up to you. They also have some extra dibbles, so you don't have to be concerned that you lose one or two. There are plenty extras for you. All right. And then it really just comes down to putting the soil in. That's the only thing where I'm still working on to understand how much soil do I need to wet to have exactly one tray. We'll see about that. And then I just swoosh through it, push it in. I don't try to compact it super much, but I also want to make sure I have it properly through. For some reason, I get the middle ones always quite quickly full, but the ones on the sides are always the one which need extra fill. Yeah, and we'll see that when we're done here, but they produce really, really perfect blocks, which you can also just pick up and put into different trays, because that's what I'm actually doing most with it. I don't always have a full tray of it in a 10-20 tray. I use a lot of those mini trays where I put 4 blocks of one variety in and let that germinate under the dome, because I grow not that many plants, but I grow a lot of varieties. So I literally have from some varieties literally just 4 plants or so. And I always find it hard when you have a full tray under the humidity dome, and then from one variety a few early risers, or the ones who are germinating super fast, versus the other ones, they are still sitting under the humidity dome waiting for everything else to germinate. So this way you can take just that little tray, take it out of the humidity dome, and leave the other ones there. It's a little bit of an extra step, but I found it's worth it, at least in my setup, where I grow not that many plants from just one kind, where it's worth to have one tray, except for basil and zinnias. That is where I have one full tray, but everything else is with the little extra microgreen tray method these days, and it works beautifully. All right, I think we are good to go. They also Swiftblocker has its own scraper, but again, can use whatever you have, or I used a paint scraper before. All right, that took us I don't know, I didn't look at the clock, but less than 5 minutes, and this goes faster with experience. So let's put the top on, and then it's literally just aligning and squeezing. And ta-da! Ooh, I'm getting better with it. That was fast. So I always have a little bit of debris on the sides with it. Quickly get that because I'm a messy person. That was basically the soil which I like snuck besides of it. But look, a full tray in like, I don't know, 5 minutes, and I still feel like I'm not the fastest because I'm still getting used to it. But it's beautiful. And what I mentioned before, you can take those soil blocks and bounce them in your hand. You might have seen the competition with me and a few of my Insta friends last year, where we started to bounce these soil blocks around. Then you know you have a perfect consistency soil block if it stays like that. I really love it. I hope this was an interesting review for you to just see how it's going. I know this soil blocker, the Swiftblocker, is an investment, especially if you want to have more than just one size. I would recommend to start just with the size you use the most and see how you like it. But if you value your time, it's also very, very well made. So I'm very sure that I have that for the rest of my life here, to really make quality soil blocks. And now I'm for sure dirty on my forehead. Anyway, I can highly recommend it. I love it. I'm not looking back, and especially I'm not looking back to the hand paint, the handheld ones always gave me when I'm like doing tray after tray. So let me know if you have any other questions regarding the comparison. I'm a huge fan. I'm definitely team Swiftblocker moving forward, and hope I can get a couple more of them next year and the year after or so to like ranking it up. But if you are a person or a flower farmer who has to crank out a lot of soil blocks, that should be a no-brainer for you. So let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Otherwise, if you found that video helpful, I would love for you to like the video. This helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Otherwise, subscribe and watch another video. Thank you.